There are moments in life when you see something before it happens. You sense the fracture line in a friendship long before it splits. You notice the subtle change in someone's tone, the small inconsistency in a story, the hidden current in a conversation that no one else seems to hear. Others move on as if nothing happened, but you already know where the path is leading. For the intuitive introvert, this is not a rare gift. It is the way their mind constantly works, scanning, connecting, and predicting. Carl Jung called this the introverted intuitive function, and he believed it was one of the rarest of all psychological orientations. Unlike the extroverted intuitive, who looks outward and spots opportunities in the world, the introverted intuitive turns inward. Their vision does not stop at what is visible. It reaches into the unseen structure behind events, into the symbolic meaning beneath appearances, into the destiny that seems to hover beneath the surface of the ordinary. Jung described this type as someone who lives in a world of images, perceiving realities before they manifest. If you recognize yourself here, you may already know the strange mixture of awe and alienation that comes with this kind of perception. On the one hand, it feels like a superpower. You can see through facades, detect lies without evidence, and sense outcomes that others call impossible until they unfold. On the other hand, it feels like a curse, because when you speak your insights too soon, people laugh, doubt, or dismiss you. Worse still, they may turn against you, projecting their fear of what you reveal. This is why so many intuitive introverts grow up feeling odd, misunderstood, even broken. You may have wondered, why can't I just relax like everyone else? Why do I always see the cracks in the mask? Why do I sense the storm while everyone else enjoys the sunshine? Jung would answer, you're not broken. You are simply wired differently. Your consciousness has an antenna that most people do not have. But make no mistake, such an antenna comes with a price. To see beneath the surface is to live with knowledge others are not ready to handle. It means carrying visions of betrayal, failure, or collapse before they arrive. It means holding truth that may isolate you from the very people you wish to protect. And it means that sometimes you cannot escape the burden of knowing, even when silence would be easier. Imagine being in a crowd and noticing that everyone is dancing on a floor that is slowly cracking. You feel the fracture spreading, you know the collapse is coming, yet no one else notices. Do you shout and become the mad prophet? Do you stay quiet and watch the inevitable disaster? This is the tension of the intuitive introvert. It is not simply knowledge, but the weight of responsibility that comes with knowledge. Jung warned that every psychological function, when dominant, becomes both gift and danger. Intuition, especially introverted intuition, is the most uncanny of them all. It connects the conscious mind to the unconscious, the personal to the collective, the present to the future. But it also threatens to detach a person from ordinary life. To live in visions is to risk neglecting reality. To see too deeply is to risk losing the simple joy of what is. And yet, even with these risks, there is something profoundly validating in knowing. You are not imagining things. That sense of inevitability you feel when you look at someone's choices, that instant recognition when a pattern reveals itself, it is not delusion. It is your way of seeing. It is the hidden power of the intuitive introvert. This first step is to acknowledge it without shame. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are carrying a form of intelligence that few will understand, but that can become a path of transformation. Jung's work shows us that to carry such a gift is not an accident. It is a call.
To understand why Jung called this type of intelligence dangerous, you have to see what it does to the world around it. Human society thrives on shared illusions. We all agree, silently, to play along with certain stories, that our leaders know what they are doing, that relationships are stable if they look stable from the outside, that success means what the crowd says it means. These illusions are not simply lies. They are structures of comfort. They keep people bonded, hopeful, and able to continue through life without collapsing under uncertainty. The intuitive introvert, however, does not accept these illusions for long. Their perception cuts through appearances like X-ray vision. They spot the hidden motive behind a generous gesture, the insecurity driving an act of arrogance, the hollowness of a rule everyone obeys without questioning. And this is precisely why their intelligence frightens others. To reveal the cracks in a collective illusion is to threaten the emotional security of the group. Jung noticed that the intuitive introvert often becomes a kind of prophet figure, unwillingly. They see things before others do, and when they try to share these visions, they are met with suspicion. In a family, this child becomes the difficult one. In a workplace, they are the colleague who overthinks. In friendships, they may be called pessimistic or cold. But what is really happening is projection. Jung described projection as the process where the unconscious contents of one person are pushed onto another. When you reveal something uncomfortable about the group's shadow, its hidden fear and insecurity, is projected back onto you. This is why your intelligence is called dangerous. Not because it is false, but because it is true. And truth destabilizes. Kierkegaard once wrote that the crowd is untruth. He meant that truth is always an individual confrontation, not a collective agreement. To stand apart from the crowd is to carry the burden of seeing too clearly, of refusing the safety of shared illusions. And that, by definition, is threatening to those who need the crowd in order to survive. Consider how societies treat whistleblowers, mystics, or visionaries. They are not celebrated when they first speak. They are ridiculed, punished, or exiled. Only later, when time proves them right, does the world grudgingly admit their value. The same dynamic occurs on a smaller scale in daily life. When you see through a manipulative partner, you may be accused of paranoia. When you question a company's shallow mission, you may be labeled disloyal. When you point out the emptiness of a social game, you may be ostracized. It is easier for others to attack you than to face the painful reality you expose. In this way, your very presence can act as a mirror, and not everyone wants to see themselves reflected with such clarity. Jung understood that this is why intuitive introverts often feel not just different, but actively targeted. The danger is not that they are wrong, but that they are right too soon. And so, the dangerous intelligence is not merely about insight. It is about timing and power. To know something before others are ready is to stand outside their protection. To see the emperor has no clothes is to risk being stoned for blasphemy. The group defends itself against you because you threaten the glue that holds it together, its illusions. This is why Jung's psychology is not just theory, but survival knowledge. He taught that when you recognize this pattern, you must also recognize the danger it invites. The clarity of your vision is both your light and your exposure. And until you learn how to hold that vision without demanding others to see it, you will always be treated as a threat.
If the outside world treats the intuitive introvert as a threat, the inside world does not remain unscarred. The gift of perceiving what lies beneath appearances comes with a heavy psychological toll. To constantly sense hidden motives, invisible patterns, and approaching consequences is exhausting. It means that even in moments of apparent calm, your mind is running simulations, catching whispers of danger, calculating outcomes. What others can ignore, you cannot. What others call peace, you often experience as uneasy silence before the next storm. Jung noted that when one psychological function dominates, in this case introverted intuition, the individual pays the price of imbalance. Life feels tilted toward the unseen. While others enjoy the surface of things, you are forced to live in the depths. This creates a loneliness not of circumstance, but of perception.
Even when surrounded by people, you can feel like a foreigner in your own life. This loneliness deepens when your insights are repeatedly dismissed. Imagine warning a friend that their partner is unfaithful, only to be told you are overreacting until the betrayal finally happens. Imagine sensing that a job is about to collapse and being mocked for being negative until the layoff arrives. Each time you are proven right, instead of relief, you feel the weight of knowing. And each time you are ignored, the sense of alienation grows. The cost is not simply social isolation, but inner alienation, the feeling that your very way of seeing is a burden too heavy to share. Philosopher Emile Cioran captured this agony with brutal clarity. To see too clearly is to condemn oneself. He was speaking about the torment of lucidity, the pain of being unable to retreat into comforting illusions once you have glimpsed their fragility. For the intuitive introvert, this is not a philosophical abstraction, it is daily reality. To walk through life with your eyes open when everyone else chooses blindness is to carry a sentence of solitude. And this solitude breeds exhaustion. The mind that never rests, that is always connecting dots, eventually wears down the body. Anxiety, insomnia, and depression often haunt those with dominant introverted intuition. They feel old before their time, burdened by truths that offer no immediate solution. Some retreat entirely, hiding from the world in order to shield themselves from endless projections. Others overcompensate, trying to numb their vision through distraction, work, or substances. But none of these strategies resolve the core issue, that to live with such intelligence is to live with a constant friction against the world. Jung understood this as the cost of individuation, the process of becoming whole. To individuate is to walk away from the unconscious comfort of the crowd, to face truths that most prefer to bury. For the intuitive introvert, individuation begins not with choice, but with necessity. They cannot unknow what they know. They cannot unsee what they see. And so they carry forward, often against their will, toward a horizon that promises integration, but demands suffering first. This is why validation is so vital. To recognize that you are not crazy, not broken, but simply wired with a different perceptual system, that alone can lift part of the weight. It does not erase the solitude, but it transforms it into meaning. Instead of being condemned by your vision, you begin to see it as a responsibility. A painful one, yes, but not without purpose. The psychological cost is real, but it is also a clue. Because hidden inside the exhaustion, the isolation, and the alienation is the seed of transformation. Jung believed that what wounds us most deeply is often the material through which the self is forged. The curse of seeing too clearly may in time reveal itself as the very path to becoming who you are.
Up to this point, the danger of being an intuitive introvert has seemed mostly external. The group's hostility, the projections, the isolation. But Jung warned that the deepest danger is not what others do to you, it is what happens inside of you. To see too much of the hidden world is not only exhausting, it can become destabilizing. The very intelligence that allows you to perceive beneath appearances can also drag you away from yourself. One of the most subtle risks is mistaking intuition for destiny. When you sense a pattern, it feels absolute. If you intuit betrayal, you may assume it is inevitable. If you see collapse coming, you may start living as though it has already arrived. Over time, this creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You withdraw, shut down, and unconsciously prepare for disaster, which then manifests exactly as you anticipated. The tragedy is not that your vision was wrong, but that it was incomplete. You saw one possibility and mistook it for the only path. Jung noted that when the intuitive function dominates without balance, the individual loses contact with reality. Instead of navigating life, they drift into visions, images, and symbolic connections that feel more real than the present moment. This is where the dangerous intelligence can collapse in on itself. What once felt like a gift becomes an inner labyrinth. You begin to live in a future that has not yet happened, or in an inner world that others cannot access. The result is detachment not only from people, but from your own body, your own simple being. This is where shadow integration becomes crucial. For Jung, the shadow is everything we repress, the fears, desires, and impulses we would rather not face. Intuitive introverts, so absorbed in patterns and meanings, are often tempted to ignore their own shadow in favor of analyzing everyone else's. But this avoidance is dangerous. If you do not face your own darkness, it seeps in through the cracks of your intuition. You start to project it outward, suspecting motives everywhere, seeing betrayal in every glance, corruption in every word. Your intelligence becomes contaminated, less a mirror of truth and more a magnifying glass of paranoia. Another danger is the erosion of boundaries. Because you sense so much, you risk absorbing too much. Other people's moods, unspoken fears, even collective anxieties can overwhelm you. You begin to lose track of what belongs to you and what belongs to them. Without strong boundaries, your gift of perception becomes a flood that drowns you. Jung would say, when the unconscious breaks through too strongly, it destabilizes the ego. In modern terms, it means your center collapses under the weight of too much information, too much unseen truth. And yet the most insidious danger is subtle pride. To see what others cannot can create a quiet sense of superiority, even if unspoken. You may begin to believe you are chosen, special, different. While part of that may be true, your perception is rare. Jung warned that inflation is the greatest enemy of individuation. To inflate the self with visions is to lose the humility that anchors growth. Without humility, the intuitive introvert risks becoming not a prophet, but a fanatic. The real danger, then, is not only being misunderstood by the world. It is losing yourself to your own visions, mistaking perception for fate, drowning in shadows you refuse to own, or inflating into an identity that isolates you even further. Jung's psychology offers a sobering truth. Every gift, if unintegrated, turns into its opposite. The sight that can save you can also destroy you. This is why the path forward is not about denying your intelligence, nor about worshiping it. It is about integrating it, giving it limits, grounding it in reality, and balancing it with the other parts of your psyche. Only then can the dangerous intelligence of the intuitive introvert become not a curse, but a calling.
The final task for the intuitive introvert is not to silence their gift, nor to surrender to it entirely, but to transform it. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires that each of us learn to integrate our dominant function with the rest of our psyche. For the intuitive introvert, this means grounding visions in reality, tempering foresight with humility, and learning to carry their perception as responsibility rather than burden. The first step in this transformation is recognition. To acknowledge that your way of seeing is not madness, not paranoia, but a legitimate psychological function is liberating. Jung's typology is not simply theory, it is validation. To know that your perception belongs to a known category, that it has been studied and named, can dissolve the shame of being different. You are not broken, You are carrying a rare form of awareness, and awareness, once named, can be cultivated. The second step is balance. Intuition must be grounded by sensation, by the simple act of inhabiting the present. This is why practices like walking in nature, working with your hands, or engaging in physical activity are not trivial for the intuitive introvert. They are medicine. They anchor the soaring visions into the weight of the body. Without this grounding, intuition floats into abstraction. With it, intuition becomes wisdom, a perception that can both see beyond and remain connected to life as it is. The third step is shadow work. This means turning your perceptive gaze inward, confronting the fears and desires you would rather project onto others. By integrating your own shadow, you purify your vision. You no longer see betrayal everywhere because you have faced your own capacity for betrayal. You no longer drown in the collective sphere because you have acknowledged your own. Jung taught that the shadow, once integrated, becomes not a threat but a source of strength. For the intuitive introvert, this transformation is crucial. It separates true insight from paranoia, vision from distortion. The final step is purpose. To carry such perception is not random. Throughout history, intuitive introverts have been the ones to foresee collapse before it arrived, to imagine new paths when the old ones failed, to serve as guides through times of uncertainty. Their gift is not meant to isolate them forever, but to position them as torchbearers in moments of darkness. The world rarely thanks them in the present. Often it resists them, mocks them, or fears them. But over time, their role becomes clear. They are not destroyers, but forerunners of transformation. Kierkegaard spoke of the knight of faith, the solitary figure who walks apart from the crowd, guided by an inward vision that others cannot understand. Sauron confessed the torment of lucidity, yet even he transformed his despair into words that gave countless readers clarity. Jung himself endured isolation to articulate a psychology that continues to guide seekers today. Each of these figures shows us that the dangerous intelligence of the intuitive introvert can be lived and can become a path not of destruction, but of contribution. And so the closing truth is this: your gift is not a sentence, it is a summons. The very things that once felt like a curse, the loneliness, the visions, the constant sensing, are the raw material of a deeper calling. They are not here to crush you, but to shape you. The intelligence of the intuitive introvert is dangerous, yes, but only when denied, inflated, or left unintegrated. When embraced with humility, grounded in reality, and guided by purpose, it becomes not a curse, but a torch. You are not carrying a burden. You are carrying a light that prepares the future.